I'm going to start off by saying just a few words about us. We're an organisation focused on learning, well, extraordinary learning, and that's with and about technology, and that includes computing, but also covers all aspects of learning with digital. We've been interested in digital media literacy for quite some time and developing students' critical skills and awareness and helping teachers with that too. And like all our speakers today, we're drawing on our own direct work with children and young people too. So I'm going to glance back a couple of years and then very briefly sketch some of the current wider context, mention a few specifics relevant to the UK, and also talk about curriculum too. So Caitlin, here's a shot of our trailer for the talk we did 3 years ago to about 800 people in the arena at the BET show, the Educational Technology Show in January 2019. At that point, we were inspired by the fake news pupil workshops that we were running, where we did hands-on with students using programming tools, as well as evaluating some classic spoof websites. And I think that blurb there still captures well what we're trying to do. I'm not going to read it all out to you. I know we've dropped the use of the term fake news these days, as that has a lot of extra associations, and the more in-depth move to using the term news literacy that you'll hear more about shortly. And at that time, academics like Shoshana Zuboff were in the international spotlight, and we were aware of the All-Party Parliamentary Literacy Group Commission and report. And of course, that was all pre-pandemic. So moving to the present, I'm going to mention four recent developments that I think are wider in the relevant in the wider context. First of all, UK government, the DCMS department published its strategy in the summer, and the scope of this is wider than just education in school. It's really society at large, I think. And we're delighted that, like our partners here, to have had some of our work highlighted on the accompanying website. And Faye wrote a really helpful blog at the time, which we got a link to there. Secondly, the UK government online harms bill is currently before Parliament. And in the words of one minister, the aim of that is to make the UK the safest place in the world to be online. But it's not without controversy, and it's very long in the making. So we have to see where that goes, and there's a lot of good BBC reporting on that as well. Added in to this, the Information Commissioner's Office has introduced the age-appropriate design code for any online services that are used by children, but many people have already pointed out that there are breaches by players large and small. And then fourthly, in a more global context, good news is that the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, of course, developed many years ago, has at last been updated with an announcement and celebration this year. And this poster from Five Rights puts it very neatly. The UN Committee on the Rights of the Child has just said, your rights apply in the digital world. And I've enlarged the key statement that's relevant for us in this session. So turning now to a school focus and the curriculum, the picture's quite complex, and that's partly due to terminology and subject compartmentalization, but also due to the fact that digital's constantly developing and changing. And we've also had an unprecedented turn to online and blended teaching and learning in the last 18 months as well. So in this somewhat packed slide, I've stacked up curriculum subjects and aspects on the left as applicable to England. And of course, schools do organise curriculum and departments in different ways, so you may not find a complete match of acronyms. And again, relevant in a UK context, at the bottom I've highlighted keeping children safe in education as safeguarding and all educators' duty of care is relevant here in the widest sense, as well as the detailed expectations set out for schools in that regulation. And perhaps it's worth saying that in essence, this whole area is about truth too. So perhaps spiritual, moral, social and cultural development could have gone on this slide, and religious education too could have been put on. So on the right-hand side, we've got literacy at the centre, and reading, understanding, and potentially writing, as well as speaking and listening are absolutely at the heart of this. And there are many other overlapping literacies, of which I've just added a few here. So we've got news literacy, digital literacy, etc. When the computing curriculum was introduced in 2014, a guide at the time spoke of pupils having an opportunity to develop a more critical media literacy as they work with tools that until relatively recently were the domain of professionals, and 7 years on from that, apps and software have even more power to represent or distort reality. And we have a tide of dis and misinformation and confusion of fact with opinion at large as well. So computing in the national curriculum as a subject mentions responsible, competent, confident, and creative users of technology. And at Key Stage 2, we have specific mentions of pupils being discerning in evaluating digital content, as well as using technology safely, respectfully, and responsibly, and reporting concerns about content or contact in a range of ways. I want to move on now to our own specific CLC project that's been running for 3 years, and which last year reached about 500 Year 5 pupils, and how it originated. Going back a few years now, the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Literacy launched the Commission on Fake News and the Teaching of Critical Literacy in schools, with a focus on digital news environments. And out of this came Newswise, with funding from Google, and partners here this evening were closely involved. And then a wider collaboration in the form of a network, which we're delighted to be part of, the News Literacy Network. Our current collaboration with First News Education is based on an academic model. And so these are the aims of our current news project from a news literacy perspective. And here's a shot of the some of the academic model behind it. And whilst we're still in 2021, it's worth reminding ourselves that this year's Safer Internet Day was around reliability. So lots of useful materials still available for schools there. And finally, a helpful framework to pull some threads together, if you haven't come across it, is the UK Council for Internet Safety's Education Framework for a Connected World, which was updated last year and will hopefully continue to be kept up to date. And there are lots of I can statements across all phases. These green ones are the 7 to 11 years ones, and include such terms as misinformation and disinformation, something that we picked up in our original workshop with schools.